You ever notice how in soda commercials, after they drink soda, they always go, and sometimes they do that even as they open it, like just the sound of it opening gives them thirst relief. It's really weird. This isn't soda at all. That is my super weird smoothie. I've had 2 of them today. We got one of those Vitamixes, or I got one of those for my wife. They're basically like a lawnmower engine with a blender attachment. They're pretty crazy. Anyway, that is apple, banana, peanut butter, vanilla yogurt, and milk. Don't judge me. Don't be looking at me like that. Anyway, got a new mic set up, as you can see here. Or maybe you can't. I don't know. New mic set up. And the other one you will see is back there. Because I decided the only thing it's good for is decoration. That mic sucked. It was pretty bad. Bad sound. So sorry for the first 4 videos with terrible sound. Anyway, I digress. Welcome to Illo Talk. I am Cory Kerr, and this is 100 Days of Animation, where I spend a minimum of 30 minutes every day working on my animated short film for 100 days and document the process along the way and see where we get to. I decided to start 100 Days of Animation at the worst possible time. We literally just moved, and I'm finding that the house that we moved into is kind of quirky. And I say quirky meaning like the wiring sucks. I had that fire, all kinds of weird stuff. Anyway, lots of weird stuff. So I've had to replace a bunch of lights and things. I have not had very much time, and I haven't been getting as much sleep because I still want to get to at least 30 minutes of this. So that's what I'm going to do. Talk about some other stuff while I draw. But let's get to the drawing. All right. So I haven't quite figured out like a setup that I like yet. And I'm running super late. I normally try to get started by 9. And it's like 11:09 right now. So I'm going to try to talk and draw at the same time. We'll see how that goes. And I haven't really thought about what I'm going to say. So anyway, I'll talk about this poster. So actually, I know what I could talk about. I've been listening to lectures on, I listened to lectures. Have you guys heard of the Great Courses? He asked as if you were going to answer because, you're listening, so you should be able to answer. Anyway, the Great Courses is like this audio series, I guess you'd call it. And they're kind of like audiobooks, except it's lectures. And the ones on history are fascinating. I really like them. I've been listening to, like last year, I listened to all the Greek ones. Not all of the Greek ones, but I listened to a ton of lectures on ancient Greece. I think I ended up listening to about 70 hours of lectures of ancient Greece, which is pretty cool. Different courses and whatnot. A lot of it focused on like Spartan lifestyle and warfare. And anyway, it was good. I liked it. And then I got into Hamilton this year, right? Like everybody else did. And that was cool. And so I read the biography by Ron Chernow, the one that Lin-Manuel read and got inspired by. Anyway, it was pretty good. I liked it. And then I thought, because in that you have Jefferson and Washington and Hamilton and Madison. And at different points in time, they debate different things, right? And one of the things that they debated, I think I might make that an eagle. I'm going to sketch an eagle really fast. So we'll just call this sketch. Mm-hmm. And one of the things that they talked about was the French Revolution, right? And in the play, they go over the French Revolution a little bit. I'm going to make this blue because I've already sketched in red. And sorry, I can ink and talk. I can't like sketch and talk. It's like too much thinking. I don't know if I want to do an eagle. What would be good? What's like the equivalent of an eagle in the insect world? I'm trying to think of what that would be. I'm going to do like a ladybug or something up here. I don't think anybody's going to notice, but I'll do it anyway. So we'll kind of go this deal like that, and then we'll have some spots on it. Kind of like that. We'll make it a little bit subtle. Yeah, that'll work. Let me rotate that to the way I want it. So anyway, I thought it'd be interesting to learn about the French Revolution because you've got Marquis de Lafayette, who played a pretty integral role, especially like in the Battle of Yorktown, where he and Hamilton kind of fought side by side in that situation. And then later, there's that cabinet meeting, and Jefferson and Hamilton kind of argue, debate, whatever you want to call it, on whether or not America should send aid to the French. Why am I not? Oh, because I'm on the wrong layer. And the French Revolution and the American Revolution are drastically different. Massively, drastically different. For a number of reasons. I mean, one, America was set up completely differently. It was a colony, and in that colony, they were fairly removed from King George. And as such, they didn't have the same, struggles and whatnot. So it was a different revolution, but it was a revolution of thinking. And so they thought quite a bit about how things should work and how things should be. And there was a lot of talking, right? And so you have kind of Continental Congress, and you've got lots of debates, and you've got some of the best minds of, the last little while. I mean, you've got Benjamin Franklin, Thomas Jefferson, George Washington, James Madison, Alexander Hamilton, on and on and on and on. There's a ton of these guys, and they were super smart, right? And it differed massively from the French Revolution, because the French Revolution, so the American Revolution was kind of like, this sucks. We're British citizens, but we're not really being treated fairly. I don't think we should have taxes without representation, right? And it was mostly, and there was some exceptions to this, as always, but it was mostly a rebellion of ideas. And so the concepts that they were putting forth, the concepts of those things, I think this all the way through, but I want this to be like that. Have some wrinkles in it. They were debating ideals, whether or not men had the sovereign right to rule themselves. Was a king necessary? And while the French Revolution also debated those ideas, they debated those ideas with a guillotine. They literally debated those ideas by killing everyone. And I always grew up thinking, American Revolution, everybody in America was like, screw King George, we're out. See ya. And that wasn't really the case. In fact, most people, especially in New York and things like that, still considered themselves to be very British. Even while Washington was fighting, they were still trying to figure out exactly how they were going to do things. And they didn't view this army as an occupying force kind of until the end. I mean, when Washington started to win, because he was losing for a while. Anyway, long story short, because I'm actually talking about the French Revolution right now. The French Revolution was drastically different. It was different in its tone. There was still some thought going into it, but it was violent. There were basically a series of takeovers, and every time a different faction took over, heads would roll. And I'm not saying that euphemistically. I mean, literally, blood would run in the streets, and people would come out to see the Jacobins or, the bourgeoisie, or I don't know how to say that word. But the ruling class of the time get beheaded. And it was crazy. And then there was this thing called the Terror, which actually was a government program to oust and kill anyone who is associated with the former class system. Kind of weird, right? And so in the States, we didn't really have, there was definitely a class system, but nothing near the vassal serf situation that was going on in Europe at the time, because there just wasn't like old family blood like there was in a lot of the European nations, all of the European nations. And so instead of having this kind of revolution where we've got to kill the king, we just had to stop listening to the king and get his army out of our cities. And so it's drastically different, like I said. Anyway, it's been interesting to read about that. I say read in quotes, because my mom always argues with my dad and claims that he doesn't read books because he listens to them on audio. There have actually been neurological studies done that the brain reacts exactly the same way to the written word as it does to the heard word, as far as when we're talking about audiobooks and reading paper books. So I listen to a ton of audiobooks. Not a ton, but I listen to a lot. Compared to some people, I guess it's a ton. But anyway, I think I'm going to draw one of these eggs. I'm just going to draw a single egg. And then I will stack them in Illustrator. Let's draw an egg. We'll make it heavier on one side. Like so. And then we'll give it some stuff on the inside. I think I'll change up the stuff a little bit. Egg. I might do 2 or 3 eggs. Let's do another one. That was terrible. So anyway, it's been interesting. It's been interesting to compare and contrast. The interesting thing, and kind of scary at the moment actually, is that after France fought super hard to rid itself of this class system, get rid of rule by birthright, which is kind of like this law of primogeniture, which is, the oldest son of the king is better than everybody else because God chose him, and everybody else is not as cool. There's different blood in their veins, and so he was born to rule. The Pope was involved and all that jazz. So they got rid of the king, killed him after a while, and his wife, Marie Antoinette, who kept kind of spying for Austria during this whole thing, probably because she was like, holy crap, everyone is being killed. And so she was really just kind of self-preservation. Maybe. But in any case, they killed everybody. And then, after a series of events, they literally voted Napoleon Bonaparte, I almost said Napoleon Dynamite. They literally voted Napoleon Bonaparte in as hereditary emperor, meaning that he was a king, except they just called him an emperor, and his sons or brothers or whomever else would take over when he died, it was a kingship. It was literally just reestablishing the monarchy. And everybody voted for that. After they killed all kinds of people for this revolution, and then after all of that, they were like, yeah, we want an emperor. This is a great idea to save the revolution. We'll consolidate all the power, get rid of the democratic process of voting, and we'll just have this one guy rule us because he's cool and we like him. And anyway, it just goes to show that no matter what happens, you are never that far off from having a king, being subjected to the whims of a single person. So, anyway, slightly concerning given today's political climate, which I try not to get into politics, but boy, it's hard not to get into politics when everything seems to be going the way it is. Anyway, and it's kind of hard not to get into politics when you're spending a lot of your free time doing a political allegory with insects. So, but actually, if you guys want to know about this story that I'm drawing, this guy right here that I'm drawing, he does not represent a specific individual. I know a lot of people are going to draw specifics and say, oh, that's so-and-so or whatever. But my real reason in doing this is not because someone got elected or didn't get elected or whatever else, right? But it's because as I've studied history, I continue to see the same patterns over and over and over again. And I don't think that we are immune to those patterns. And I think that anybody who says, oh, that could never happen here because of XYZ is deluding themselves. And that's concerning. I hate that blade of grass, so we're going to get rid of it. It's concerning to say, this is America, or this is Canada, or this is Australia, or this is France, so this could never happen, or whatever. We're free. We're a free people. Well, freedom is not a given. In fact, I actually think the natural state of a society is, it tends to be, and this isn't what I think should happen, but just given human nature, we tend to have heroes, and we're not huge fans of responsibility. We try to avoid responsibility and being accountable for things because when we're accountable, then we can screw up. And if we screw up, then there's negative consequences, right? But if somebody else screws up, hey, man, that's on them. And so actually what I've noticed in a lot of history is that people trend towards a single consolidated power. Whether that single consolidated power, oh man, I inked a ton of stuff. I'm going to get rid of these eggs. Whether that single consolidated power is a king or a tribal chief of some sort, or something along those lines, or an emperor or whatever. But you have this single source of power. And sometimes we like to pretend that, there's different checks and balances in place, like, well, it's these guys and only landowners and only white people or only whatever, right? And so there's always some idea that we're trying to do, to justify giving away our freedoms and not being responsible for the decisions that we make. The concerning part about that is that when you do that, you are going to become a slave. And whether that's a serf, or you're serving a vassal lord of some kind, I'm going to curve that differently so it doesn't have a tangent. We're going to curve this way. Actually, I'm going to curve this around. I want this to bring us inward a little bit. There we go. Or whether literally you are being sold into slavery. One interesting thing about the French Revolution is that the nation that we now know as Haiti was growing sugar, and they were owned by France, ran by France, colonized by France or whatever. And anyway, there was a bunch of French troops there, and the black slaves organized and freed themselves. And at one point in time, had a more powerful military force than France did. And so nobody could do anything about it. And that's kind of when they set up the nation of Haiti. And they said, you know what? We're not going to be slaves anymore. So they rebelled against the ruling class and freed themselves. But if you allow a single individual or a small group of people the rule of power or the power of rule, they will corrupt. Maybe not in the first generation, but it's going to happen. Because as weird as our governments are today, and as messed up and as corrupt as they are, and if you don't think they're corrupt, you are not paying attention. They are massively corrupt. Bought and paid for. But the good thing about it is that the system that's set up is set up in such a way to discourage anyone from having too much power, any one individual or group. And the system is actually meant to be super inefficient, which sounds bad. But you kind of want the government to be inefficient because it causes slower actions. And if, anyway, I don't want to get this political on this, but anyway, it's just interesting to say that, it's just interesting to see that these checks and balances that we have that are so frustrating. A new law takes forever to get through, and it's got to jump through all these hoops and all this stuff. And we get really frustrated with that. But in fact, it's actually kind of good that it takes so long, because that means that we don't have a king. See, the deal with pharaohs and kings, I listened to a bunch of lectures on ancient Egypt. And the guy said, the cool thing about having a single powerful ruler who's worshipped as a god is that you can get a lot accomplished that you can't otherwise. He said the pyramids and the obelisks would not be built in a democratic society because there's too many people that have too many different opinions. And if you have to listen to those opinions and debate those opinions, then you can't build obelisks. You can't cut them out of stone. And while that is neat from an architectural standpoint, that is not a great way to live from a cultural standpoint. Because if that dude decides that you said something he doesn't like, you're just dead. And everybody says, well, you disagreed with the king. That was stupid. And we often forget. I don't know, this whole hero worship thing is just not a great idea. And we search for heroes. And heroes, I think, are important. But I like fictional heroes a lot more than I like actual heroes. And the reason is that Superman, when written correctly, is not going to go crazy and take over, right? Even though there is one of my favorite comics where he does go crazy and take over. But that's kind of this alternate dimension thing. But anyway, this idea that somebody is infallible is problematic. And if you give anybody enough power, imagine growing up And you can do anything you want. You have no repercussions. No one tells you no ever in your whole life. And you have unlimited resources. You can buy anything you want. You think that sounds great. Until you think about it, you're going to become a horrible person. And I know that there's more to royalty and things than that. But the gist of it is, unchecked, people tend to not be great. And power corrupts. And so if you spread that power out, it's a lot better. Anyway, we don't like to think about it as a people, but we need each other. We need our differences. We need the people that we disagree with. And if everybody agreed, that would be hugely problematic. Because if everybody agreed, we would all eventually agree that, we all agree at the same thing. So why do we have this government that's so inefficient? Let's just pick one of us based on something arbitrary. I don't know, the color of our skin or hair or whatever. Maybe whoever's got the most money or the tallest person. There's lots of different things like that. And let's just have them be in charge. And the problem with that is that then they will become corrupt. And once they become corrupt, they can do whatever they want. That's problematic. So anyway, it's just been interesting to kind of compare the American Revolution, which is a revolution of thought, a revolution of ideals, sometimes very heated. A lot of those dudes hated each other's guts. But at the very least, they had to deal with each other. And ultimately, let's see, hold on. I've got to think about wrinkles for a minute. Sounds weird. I got to think about how this flag is going to fold. I'm kind of inking on the fly here. Sometimes I would sketch this out. I don't like, just screwed that up. But this is really just like a background piece. And so this fold would go, let's see what this is. I'm just going to cheat. This fold will go across like that. And we'll erase it. There we go. Digital, huh? I know, I prefer traditional, but digital is faster and I'm animating, so I need assets quickly. And they got to be digital. A lot easier to make them digital when they start digital. All right, so anyway, I don't know. Rambling thoughts on politics. And notice that I didn't mention anyone's name. I didn't call anyone out. Didn't call anyone who disagrees with me a moron or an idiot or a traitor. I worry about all this name calling, all this othering that we do with people that we disagree with. We should really be able to disagree without it causing a huge rift in society. Disagreement is important. So, anyway, I don't like it when everybody tries to demand that everybody agrees with everybody else because we need different voices. And I don't think that that means that we need to tolerate horrible ideas, but I do think it means that we need to allow for civil discourse, which is super hard on the internet, to be honest. I mean, I'm spouting off right now on politics on a YouTube video. And YouTube is typically the place where the comment section is less than kind. We'll say that. How's that? Less than kind? That's a nice way to say everybody's just tearing each other's throats out while we all call each other names and dehumanize each other. so that we don't feel bad about the things that we just said to another person. Anyway. So yeah, you can disagree with me. That's okay. I don't mind. I will disagree with you if you disagree with me in a civil way. And if you choose otherwise, that is your choice, I suppose. Alrighty then. So, giant red flag here. I'm gonna just kind of sketch in some values here. Let's see. So I'm gonna make this bigger. I should be able to draw right now. I was doing my eraser. Okay. There we go. Fantastic. So sometimes I just block things in to try to get an idea of value contrast. And I don't actually use any of these tones, but I just want to make sure that I get a general idea of how I'm going to color this. Because I want to make sure that it stands out, because one of the biggest things in composition is value, and the contrast of that value. And if you have, make the flag significantly darker. If you have good contrast, then your image will read well. And if you have poor contrast, it'll bleed together. And that becomes problematic. Because you can draw the most detailed, beautiful thing ever, and if it doesn't read well, then you're screwed, and it doesn't matter anymore. So, dark flag. I might even want to go a little bit darker. Yeah, now we're talking. Okay, so that'll be pretty dark. Come over here. Kind of like that. This guy. This guy. Okay, and then I'm going to ditch these. Okay, and so I think I'm going to go. Yeah, that's fine. I'll make them roughly. They're kind of a framing element over here. I think I want to go super dark on the leaves and foliage. That'll kind of help us frame everything in. I want that dude to stand out. This guy to stand out. I need something back here, because I want this to happen. So let's go like this. And I'll take our paint bucket tool, go like a light gray, like that. And then I'm going to come in and erase a little bit. I want him to totally be white. Stand out like that. So he's going to be a really bright color. We have bright colors here and here. Here. Maybe I want him brighter. No, I think I want him darker. So I'm going to come back in, and we need a leaf here. See, what I'm doing right now is I'm trying to see where I have issues before I get to the coloring stage. And so I actually need, because I want to outline this arm, because it's going to get lost right here, and this torso. And so I think what I'm going to do is, that caterpillar is causing me a problem here. If I have leaves that kind of come up throughout, kind of attach there, and then all of this is dark. He'll be a little bit darker. And then I have all that guy down there. Yep, that's a little better. Okay, so let's take that and we'll combine it. And then I need to sketch. So where did my sketch layer go? I have a sketch layer right here. Fantastic. Throw that to the top. Bring my opacity up. And let's draw a little bit. So I need some lines. Some of these need to connect, but I don't want to have tangents. So I'm trying to avoid that elbow. That'll be good. We can have a blank spot here. I have some lines that kind of lead us in. Don't want that to be too noisy. Maybe we'll have some grass elements that kind of come up and tie this all in for us. Okay, so let's ink it. This is now distracting, and we'll go back to black. 100% opacity. Good. All right, so let's give us some of these grass blades. That's too close. Let me go back a little bit. I don't like it. I'm going to come over here. There we go. And then we'll come up through there and there. I don't want to hit that angle. Come over and over. There we go. Okay. This is going to be horrifically boring audio. Sorry. That's so bad. I'm just talking. Okay, so that is my 30 minutes for the night. And I have to teach first thing in the morning. So I'm going to call it right after I clean up these lines that I'll probably redo tomorrow. Huge tangent right there. That's no bueno. We're going to lose that whole thing. Thicken that up. Come off like, it's still tangent. So we'll come off like this. There we go. Much better. All right. We are golden. So let's just kind of give ourselves some elements here of nature. And there's good. We'll do a couple lines of grass here. I'm trying to avoid kind of like the Bug's Life or the, you know, where everything is like a cute way of saying they're tiny, you know. They ride in a boat made out of a leaf. I mean, he's got military emblems and whatever. We're just gonna kind of roll with it. I'm not gonna try to explain what's going on with you know, different elements here. And so I'm trying to give myself kind of this framing. So we're gonna have some of these guys kind of, some of these blades of grass kind of frame us in. Yeah, that'll be right. Maybe like a big dandelion or something. I don't know. We'll figure that out tomorrow. All right. That was pretty rambly. and I'm not going to speed this up, so it's real time. I will be surprised if anybody made it to the end, especially that 5 minutes where I just didn't say anything. Sorry, guys. Anyway, tomorrow will be better. So, day 5, season 1 of 100 days of animation. This is Cory Kerr. You can find my work at CoryKerr.com, corykerr.com. I'm on Twitter and Instagram and other places that you can find at corykerr.com or in the description of this video. Thanks for watching. We'll catch you guys tomorrow. Today's shirt is text-based. I've had this one for quite a long time. This was supposed to be the future. Where is my jetpack? Where is my robotic companion? Where is my dinner in pill form? Where is my hydrogen-fueled automobile? Where is my nuclear-powered levitation house? Where's the cure for this disease? I literally bought this like 12 years ago. Still don't have any of that stuff.